Hello and welcome to the new Gaffer's first interview. So, Chris, how are you feeling?
Yeah, good, very good. Excited, energized, ready to get going. Yeah, good, mate. Thank you.
Obviously, congratulations on the appointment. It's certainly gone well, down well on social media. If you've had a chance to look on that, how does it feel knowing you've got the fans on side already? Really?
Well, I didn't know that, but thank you. It's pleasing that there's some positivity around it. That's definitely nice to hear, and I think I've got I believe I've got quite a good relationship with those fans who know who I am. I'm sure there's plenty who don't, but the ones who do, I think I've always got a bit of time for them, and I'm grateful they've always had a bit of time for me to listen to me waffling on. So yeah, I'm pleased to hear that there's a bit of positivity around the appointment.
And of course, you've already spent 3 years at the club as assistant manager. What can you take from that role into the new one?
Yeah, well, it is different. I mean, there's no doubt about it, and there's different responsibilities. There's different ways of working. It'll maybe take me away from some of the things that have been a main area of the work that I've done over the last 3 years, and put me into a slightly new sphere of responsibility. But there's a lot I already know about the club. Obviously, the positives we've got are I'm familiar with the squad and the players, familiar with the working structures within the club. Those who run other departments, I've got a relationship with already, so we work well together. I've got an affinity for the fans already, an affinity for the town as well. So, and I genuinely want the best for Halifax Town Football Club. And it's a bit of a cliche, and it's a little bit, it can be trotted out a little bit too loosely, that kind of thing. But I do, I want the best for us as a town and us as a team.
Yeah, you mentioned it there, and obviously it was mentioned in the statement after you were announced as well. But how important is it to maintain sort of some consistency and continuity over the seasons?
I think it's really important. I mean, we're a club where change can happen quite quickly, certainly around recruitment and around players, because we are a team where other clubs know that if players are doing well with us, that they may have the opportunity to come in and try and steal them away from us because of our structure and our situation. So we don't want to be that club. We want to be a club where players want to come and play and represent the badge and represent the team, to do that in its own right, rather than come and see us as a platform to move on. Obviously, everybody moves on at some point, but we want them to move on for the right reasons, because it's a much better opportunity for them in terms of their development, as opposed to just an increase in pay packet or an increase in the level of status around the club. So it's important that we establish that and make sure that that's the next level of our progression.
That's great to hear. And obviously, talking a bit more about yourself, of course, you're the main man now. You've spent time coaching at both Curzon, Ashton and Oldham before. What can you take from those previous jobs into this one?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a good mixture of experiences within football. So there's, academy work throughout a number of clubs around the Northwest, Stockport County when they were in the Football League. Obviously, you mentioned Oldham, Mactown when they were previously in the Football League. Then non-league experience with Curzon, with Alfreton, with Hensford. So, plenty of experience of coaching and assisting at those levels. So, and then obviously the time with the first team and Pete at Oldham and here at Halifax Town. So quite a broad sort of range of experiences and a good amount of time in the game. So over that time, you can't help but amass a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of ability in the way of contacts and styles of play and understanding what goes on at this level of the game. So I think I've built up that knowledge, I've built up that awareness. I think the way we've played and the way we've developed over the last 3 years, albeit it's down to Pete and his management. Some of my experiences and my knowledge have contributed to the direction of travel at Halifax over the last few years. So I look to build on that and improve on it over the next few years.
Of course, and obviously you've been heavily involved in the first team over these last 3 years, but obviously you're on your own now without Pete. But so what can we expect to be different under your leadership?
Yeah, not on my own. I think Pete's been great at explaining how how the success we've had and the work we've done has been a collaborative effort from the backroom staff, and it's really pleasing that backroom staff looks like it'll stay exactly the same going forward, which is fantastic, because not only are we blessed with a group of people who are really highly skilled and highly qualified, and I mean that, they are highly skilled and highly qualified, but also probably the most crucial characteristic they carry is that they care. They really care about the group of players that we've got in our care, and they care about the quality of the work for Halifax Town. So, that's the most important thing, is trying to maintain what Pete did very well, which was allow people with a high level of skill to be able to operate within the environment. I want to emulate his work in that area. And then I will look to try and build on establishing ourselves as a top half National League team, which is what our objective was when we first came in. We wanted to kind of shrug off that sense of being Halifax Town, who are almost happy to be at the party, and we wanted to establish ourselves as a serious contender in the top half of the division. I think that perception outside the club is definitely there now. But I think we've got to build on that, and we've got to be seen as a team who are serious contenders for promotion. We've come reasonably close this year. Can we get even closer next season?
Of course, that's I'm sure the fans will love that answer. And of course, the new season is quickly approaching. How are the preparations coming?
Yeah, well, it's been a hectic few days, and some of the preparations have obviously been undermined by the situation with Pete's departure. There were plans in place and things ready to be triggered as soon as the season ended. But obviously those have been delayed now by the departure of Pete, and having to transfer some of that responsibility onto me to take over. So the most important thing is to nail down the situation with our current players. We've got a fantastic group of players who are contracted or on options for next year, who we are currently engaging with to move forward. We've also got a number of players who we'd like to retain who are out of contract. We want to maintain continuity, not just in the backroom staff, but we want to maintain continuity within the playing staff as well. And we want to try and reward some of those players who have helped us get to this point. There are pressures. There are outside pressures that will come into play, especially for the players out of contract. There will be no shortage of suitors for them because they've performed so well. And they deserve that attention. They deserve those bits of interest for sure. What I hope we can sell to them is the fact that we've got a place for them here. We understand them. We know what they're about. We know how they play. We know how to help them bring the best out of themselves. And as is always the case, they may well be able to gain greater financial reward elsewhere, but that isn't everything. There's a great deal of value in the day-to-day experience and the performances we can help them provide on a Saturday afternoon. So that's the immediate objective, is to make sure we nail down the first team squad. Going forward, there are lots of targets, and working closely with Gaz McClelland, the head of recruitment. He's a great support, and he's always there with a real structured approach to how we can target players who will fit into our style of play. So those are the immediate pressures this week, and then moving on, we'll be looking to plan pre-season and get everything, all the I's dotted and the T's crossed over the next 2 weeks.
And of course, you mentioned it in there, obviously, the relationship you have with the players, where you know what you can expect from them, you know what you can get out of them, and that, I'm sure that relationship works both ways as well.
I hope so. Yeah, I think it does. I mean, I think there's I think there'll be a sense of hopefully excitement, certainly minimum relief, I think, amongst some of them, that things will largely stay the same and the environment will stay the same, and we'll look to, albeit with a few tweaks, we'll look to impose the same style of play going forward. So I think a lot of the players will be looking forward to getting back in, not just because of me. And again, I stress this not in any disingenuous way. I mean it wholeheartedly. They'll be relieved and pleased that the backroom staff is going to stay the same, because these guys bring an awful lot to the day-to-day experience of the players. They help them enjoy coming to work when it's good. They help them get through the daily grind when it's tough. So I think the players will be really pleased that that's the direction of travel.
Of course, looking ahead, obviously, with pre-season coming around the corner very quickly, when can the fans expect a sort of a friendly schedule to come out?
Yeah, a lot of the friendlies were put in place with Pete here. Pete did a lot of that work and has secured a lot of the friendlies. So we are just going through those to make sure that the games that are in place are supplemented and added to with suitable oppositions that will stretch and challenge the lads to the right extent. So it'll give them the opportunity to not only get the minutes that they need, but stretch them technically and tactically in the manner that they'll need to be prepared for the beginning of a National League season. So there's a few more things that just need to be worked on there, but I would hope that my side of the work on that will be done at some point later this week, and moving forward, that'll be up to you guys in the media department about how to present that and filter it out to the fans. But hopefully that side of the information should be coming together and finalised later this week.
Obviously, you mentioned it in a previous answer, but obviously it's inevitable we will lose some players. Do you have a list of targets in mind already?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's a very fluid situation, isn't it? And I think the challenge with these things, we go into games with we go into seasons with a list of players. We know that other clubs will be looking at those players as well. There are people around it who are trying to pick up these players at the same time. So it's a challenge, and it's a case of acting as speedily as possible. But the priority has got to be nailing down those players that we've got under our care at the moment, and making sure that they're ready to push on and serve Halifax Town to the best of their ability.
That's great. And finally, obviously, looking at the backroom staff, you yourself have stepped up into the management role. Have you thought about who's going to become your assistant manager?
Yeah, definitely. There's a few conversations that need to be had amongst the staff first of all. So there are a number of things that need to be discussed and agreed amongst the staff that are in position at the moment. And then moving forward, there are a list of potential assistants who we would look to speak to going forward. But the first priority in that sense is around the current staff and making sure that they understand their roles and responsibilities, and they've got an absolutely clear job spec effectively to make sure they know what their areas of responsibility are before we look to bring in that key person who will then assist and fit into what's already quite a tight structure.
That's great to hear. And I think that's all that's left to say now is good luck for the future. And do you have any message for the fans?
Yeah, it's exciting. I think we've got, I can say it now. I've been holding off, and there were an awful lot of fans saying how well we'd done, even in the run up to the end of the season. And I didn't believe we had, because the season hadn't finished, and I knew what the capacity and the potential for the season was. But looking back now, we can say, well done to them. The fans, for their support and for backing the team and lifting and carrying us through at certain moments. It was definitely one to remember, and now we've got to look to build on that. We've got to move forward, and we've got to make it even better going forward, and that's what we're going to try and do: make it a more attractive style of play, and try and impress them and serve them as best we can.
That's perfect, Gaffer. Thank you so much.
Not at all. Thank you, Luke.